I matched at the Mass General Brigham Salem Hospital program. I was not the best applicant.
Now a Hem-Onc fellow at BI.
I don't know that if I look back 5 years ago that I would think of myself in this position. I applied to a little bit over 100 programs. I got 11 interviews. There is no one right path.
Your attendees, your program director, they really want to see you grow and trying to create career opportunities for the mentees.
My whole way to look at things really changed. Being in, even though it was a small program, it was an MGB program. That opens doors. If we really want to achieve something, we can make it happen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to one more episode of MetaCast, the podcast of the Meta-Analysis Academy. I am honored today to welcome to the stage a good friend, a former student and now an expert of the Meta-Analysis Academy, Dr. Cilomar Martins. He is currently a fellow in hematology-oncology at Beth Israel Harvard Medical School. And as you all know, MetaCast is a podcast where we share successful career stories, the building of successful, extraordinary careers. And Dr. Martins is a perfect example of that. He was a resident. He finished residency in his home country, our home country of Brazil, and then he came to the United States. He decided to redo residency in internal medicine and now hematology-oncology fellowship. And he's going to walk us through the building of this extraordinary career. Cilomar, thank you so much for joining. It's an honor to welcome you here, a gaúcho, to the stage.
Thank you, Anderson, for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to come here today. It's truly an honor to be where so many brilliant people have been. So it's again truly an honor. Thank you.
Of course, brilliant people like yourself. Guys, before we get started, I want to remind everyone that MetaCast is not what we discuss here is not affiliated with the institutions where we work. The opinions that we share here are exclusively our own, not necessarily the opinions of our employers or the institutions that we mention in this episode. Also, if anyone is interested in learning how to do research and publications, make sure to join our waitlist for the Meta-Analysis Academy. You can find the link below. So, Cilomar, let's start with your current position, which is is very prestigious. I'm sure most people know in the audience, but to those that don't know, hematology-oncology is a super competitive fellowship. It's among the top 3 competitive fellowships within internal medicine, probably along with cardiology and gastroenterology. Very competitive, really exciting field. We're going to talk about that in a second. And you're also doing it at a top institution, one of the Harvard hospitals. So I want to ask you, how's that going? You're now finishing your first year fellowship, and what is it like as an international graduate to be at such a high place in your training?
Yeah, it's been a fantastic experience. As you said, the BI, as we call it, the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, the BI DMC, it's such a beautiful place to train at. And in this world of hematology, oncology, constantly changing, evolving, it really changes by the week or the month so fast, and we have to adapt. But to be able to work with such great minds at BI, it's I to be quite honest, I don't know that if I look back 5 years ago that I would think of myself in this position. But we can talk a little bit more about how I got here to this point. But it's truly great, and I don't know if I still think of myself as an international graduate at the institution, because they again are so welcoming, and being from Brazil, I look at the staff there. We also have Brazilian physicians doing hematology-oncology at BI and other institutions like yourself. I think we, as a group, we have achieved so much, and we also help each other a lot. So it's just great. That's
a great point you mentioned, about the opportunities for foreign graduates. We're recording this on the Saturday of match week, and I just saw the statistics of more than 9,000 IMGs who match for residency this week. So it's pretty incredible. And you mentioned something just now. We had also talked about this right before we started recording, which is the same experience that I had at Hopkins. Coming from University of Miami, another good academic program, and going into Johns Hopkins, you would think I thought at the time, I was worried, what is it going to be like, what the attendees are going to be like. And I was so surprised, by how incredibly nice and welcoming people were. And it sounds like that's your experience too. It's funny how the higher you climb academically, the nicer people tend to be, and the more welcoming they are as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many great things to say about the hematology community, and specifically, but I think at academic centers, it might be a general rule to say that people really want to help you and see you grow and thrive.
So true.
So it feels to me that when they find someone who is so passionate about that topic, they really, really want to help that individual. So I think that's the key.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. And the other point to highlight about this, is that the attendings, that what you just said, they really want to see you grow, and I think that's, I wouldn't say like a difference, but it actually might be a difference between like where we're from in Brazil and other places around the world, where academic environments. There are some places which wouldn't necessarily be so promoting of the fellow, of the trainee. But in the United States, every institution that I've been, it's one of the main differences. Like people who are at the top, your attendings, your program director, they really want to see you grow. And I don't mean this as a criticism to other places. I mean that it's truly unique about the United States. And that's when I include my experience in talking to people from all over the world. In the U.S., there's a huge culture of the mentors really promoting and trying to create career opportunities for the mentees.
Yeah, and I look back, and when I was still in Brazil in medical school or even in residency, and I started learning about the process. At the time, there was a Facebook group about the USMLE. I think it's still there. Yeah. And I remember people talking about mentors and mentees, and it's not something that's very common in Brazil, or it wasn't when I was a medical student or a resident. So it's striking to see this difference of the senior faculty mentoring and helping people get there.
Great. So now let's talk about how you built this career in order to get you to such a great place in your career. So tell us where you're from and about your background and where'd you do medical school, and then when you started to develop this interest in coming to the U.S.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. So I'm from Porto Alegre, so south of Brazil. Born and raised. I went to medical school at the Federal University there, URGS as we call it. So I graduated medical school in 2017. I stayed for internal medicine residency there at the same hospital, Hospital de Clínicas de Porto Alegre. And I also did a year of palliative care at the same institution. And during medical school, I was on the fourth year, halfway in my fourth year. That was we had the opportunity to join the Science Without Borders, or in Portuguese, Ciências Sem Fronteiras, which was this government-funded program for mostly anyone in the university, not only medical school, to have this experience abroad. 1 year abroad, fully funded. I think in my class, a lot of people took the opportunity. Maybe a third of people applied for the program. I would say the majority chose to go to Europe at the time. Some people went to Australia. I had never been to the United States before, but I always admired the culture and the people. So I decided to apply to the U.S. It was a different process, different than the match for residency. We had, I want to say, even less control over it, which is wild, but we did. And I remember we had to select 3 options of places we would like to go to in the United States. And I was lucky to be selected to my top one at the time, which was the University of California in Los Angeles,
Wow.
UCLA. So went there for a year. That was my first time in America. And my whole way to look at things
What did you study there?
really changed. Yeah, so technically, if you look at the paper, it says biomedical sciences. In the first half of the year, we did a mix of grad and undergrad courses, things like immunology, biochemistry, some biostats. And in the second half, those of us who were a little bit more advanced in our medical school, we were granted the opportunity to do some clinical rotations.
Wow.
So I did 3 different clerkships of 3 weeks each. I knew I wanted to go into internal medicine, so my rotations were in internal medicine subspecialties. And the last quarter, we all did research, which was, I want to say, a first contact with
That's
the
incredible.
research world.
Yeah. It must have really changed your perspective on, how you saw the future years of medical school and your career.
Yeah, it really did. Being able to work at a big U.S. hospital institution to see how they did things. And I just want to be clear that the medicine that I learned in Brazil, it was top notch. Going to medical school at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, it was fantastic. The way that we learn things there is just amazing. We have great physicians over there.
Yeah.
But being able to come here and see how they practice, it really changed things. And I add to that, of course, being in the U.S. it's a safe place. Again, I got to see by myself what their culture is.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I knew I wanted to come back at some point.
It's interesting that you still did residency in Brazil, though, right? Like you did that for a while and then decided to come. Can you walk us through that?
Well, I think when I went back, life happened and I got a little bit on my comfort zone. So I stayed for a little while, a couple of years after I graduated, still with that idea on the back of my mind. And then I was on my first year of internal medicine residency in Brazil. And then I decided it's now or never, sort of thing. And then at that point, I started studying for the USMLE steps.
Yeah, it's a great story here, guys, because a lot of people find out about the whole process and the USMLEs a little bit later in medical school or in residency, and then they have to face this decision of preparing for the USMLEs and all that entails, doing rotations, research, when they're busy, like being a doctor or being a resident, and it's tough. And Cilomar went for that experience. So what was it like to have to work 60 hours a week or more as a resident, and then still get home nights, weekends, and study for the steps? And how long did you take in that process?
Yeah, it was tough. And while I'm happy to share what I did, I do not recommend it.
This is not advice.
This is not an endorsement of how people should do this. So I was in residency, internal medicine residency. So I oddly started the steps by taking step 2 first, and not step 1.
Yeah,
because I felt, well, I'm doing something clinical now, so it makes more sense in my mind to do step 2 first. And I don't regret it. I did well on step 2, so that was good. I studied for maybe 3 to 4 months, and I had this problem that from the moment I decided to study for the steps, I had 1 year until, or a little bit less than a year, to the deadline to apply the following year. So
that's a narrow deadline.
Yeah. So again, I do not recommend this, but I did, and it worked. So yeah. So I studied for a few months for step 2. I studied for a month for the OET. At that time, we didn't have the CS anymore because of COVID.
I feel so old now having done this. Yes.
and then I had 3 months to study for step 1, which was a nightmare. I passed. I got an okay grade, not a fantastic one, but enough to have my certificate on time to apply for residency. And then my other issue is now I need letters of recommendation. So how am I going to get those letters? Being having graduated 3 years ago, I'm in residency, and now I need those letters. So when I was in LA, I did this one rotation with a doctor in cardiology, with the cardiac arrhythmias team there, Dr. Noah Boyle, who ended up becoming a true friend for all of us Brazilians there, and a great mentor for all of us.
Wow.
So we kept in touch over the years by email, and I felt comfortable approaching him and saying, hey, I'm applying. Would you be okay writing me a strong letter of recommendation? And he didn't hesitate, and he said yes. And then I didn't mention this, but the year after I went to UCLA, knowing that I wanted to come back to the U.S. at some point, I was still in medical school, my last year of med school, I returned for some sub-Is, and I wanted to do something in internal medicine. At that point, I didn't know what I wanted to do for a subspecialty, and it was, I guess, cosmic dice that happened, and I landed in two opportunities in hematology-oncology.
Wow.
One in Kansas, the Kansas University Medical Center, which is a great hospital, great institution, and another one here at BI. And I had the chance to rotate at the time with the program director in hematology, Dr. Reed Drews, who's still there. He's now the associate or the emeritus program director in hematology. So it feels like full circle coming back to BI
for sure.
So and then I approached Dr. Drews as well for another one of my letters of recommendation. And even though it was 5 years later, again we kept in touch. And I remember being in residency in Brazil, and we had this challenging case of a hemolytic anemia in a patient with renal failure. I was rotating in renal at the time. And then I said, you know what? I know this great hematologist in the U.S. Why don't we set up a meeting, a phone conference to talk about this case? So we did that.
You did that as a resident. You were a resident in Brazil.
I was resident in Brazil, and then I emailed Dr. Drews, and he joined us. And it was a great meeting, and then I asked him for a letter, and he said yes, and I'm very grateful for that.
So, I mean, you did a lot during those years of residency, the rotations, or I guess the exams, and preparing yourself to apply. What about in terms of research? Like, how much did you have at that point when you decided to apply for internal medicine?
I didn't have much. I think it was during COVID. It was my first to second year of internal medicine residency in Brazil. That was
you were studying for the steps in the middle of all of that. Yeah, because I know they worked you guys really hard during COVID.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and they had to.
Yeah,
it was tough times. So I didn't have much. I joined the rheumatology group when I was in medical school, and that led to a publication in an international journal as part of the masters of one of the attendings of the rheumatology service back then. I think I had some case reports at the time. And then during COVID, in the internal medicine department, with my colleagues and some of our attendings, we did a couple of publications. I remember one case series of organized pneumonia in COVID, and another publication right when COVID hit, where we had a big trouble that we didn't have enough tests. So we try to come up with a predictive score to apply to patients to see, which patients should be tested, since we don't have all the resources. So that also led to a publication.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, and that was pretty much what I had by the time I applied. If you look on PubMed at the time, I want to say I had 3 publications.
Yeah. So it was a well-balanced application. I mean, you were a relatively recent graduate, had done residency. That's a plus in my opinion, as long as it hasn't been too long. And you had great letters from, it sounds like, really great attendees, respected attendees. You had some research. You were a good applicant. How many interviews did you get at the time?
Yeah. So while I was a good applicant, I was not the best applicant. I think the years of graduation, that didn't help me.
How long had it been?
So over 3. So that is a cutoff for some programs, and I probably most would do 5. And that's a reason why I wanted to apply that year. To avoid the 5-year cutoff. And then again, my step 1 score was not brilliant.
Gotcha.
And I had some research, but not a lot. So I applied to a little bit over 100 programs, 110, 120, something like that. I got 11 interviews, I think,
awesome.
at the time. And it was a mix of academic programs and community-affiliated programs.
And you ended up matching at one of the Brigham programs here in Boston, or in the Boston area.
Yeah, I matched at the Mass General Brigham Salem Hospital program, which is 30 minutes north of Boston, which is a community-affiliated program. And it was my number 1 choice at the time for many reasons. One is because they were the only program that offered an H-1B visa.
Clever.
And I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I think their affiliation with Mass General Brigham was important, and the opportunity of doing research projects at those major institutions.
Even rotations.
Yeah, and rotations as well. Knowing that I wanted to go into hematology-oncology at the time.
That proved out to be a very wise decision.
Yeah.
I mean, look at you, now a Hem-Onc fellow at BI.
And I want to say the feeling I had when I interviewed, I think that should play a big role in when people decide how they're going to rank programs, really how you felt in your interview day. And I think that's super important.
Yeah. So, and it's not a huge program. You were saying like 8 residents per year, correct?
Yeah, it's a small program. I think it has its downsides, but it also good things about it. Because it's small, it feels like family.
Yeah, you get to know everyone.
Yeah, we all know each other. We support each other. I never felt like there was competition among ourselves. So I think my class was really, really great. And we did great in the fellowship match.
Nice.
We had matches in... there was me, one of my colleagues matched in pulmonary at NYU. We had a match in endocrine at Mayo Clinic in Minnesota.
Incredible.
We had another match in ID in Cleveland Clinic and ID in Northwestern in Chicago. So we did really well. And I guess my point here that I want to make is, yes, it's a small program, but we can, if we really want to achieve something, we can make it happen.
Yeah.
Even though the program itself doesn't have a lot of resources or incentives for us to do research and build our CV, if we really want something, if we're really passionate about something, we can make it happen. We can make things happen. Yeah.
You mentioned about being really close. I went to the complete opposite in terms of program. It was huge. We're 40 residents per year, University of Miami. So like made really good friends. But you would rotate with someone, like let's say internal medicine wards, and you'd be on the same team. And then you would rotate off service and see that person again in 6 months, So like just because the rotations were in 3 different hospitals and such a big healthcare system. So that's good. I want to ask you, What are some of the key elements of key drivers you would say into going from a smaller program, community but academic affiliated, as you mentioned, and then matching to one, a competitive specialty, two, a really strong academic program? You already mentioned that, there's sort of, in this case, all Harvard affiliated, all well, I guess not even MGB now, but anyway, Harvard, they're all within sort of the same academic umbrella. But I'm sure there are other elements. I'm sure you were a great resident. Maybe you did research or connections, rotations, and what were the most important elements you think in building the successful fellowship application?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, it's a mix of things. There is no one right path or one right answer.
It's important.
So what worked for me was a mix of, I want to say, hard work and a little bit of luck. So things that I had control over, knowing what I wanted to do when I started my intern year, which I know it's not true for most people that are starting residency in the United States, especially if this is their first residency. I had already done that, so I went into residency here knowing what I wanted to do. That helped in a way because I could focus my efforts. Of course, I had to do residency too, and see patients and learn more internal medicine. Internal medicine is this thing; it's never ending.
Huge.
But I could focus. So from the beginning of my my intern year, I reached out to mentors, PIs at the Brigham, Mass General, and Dana-Farber to talk about research opportunities. Because I was in a residency, I couldn't do anything lab-based, but I tried to see what they had that was more database type projects. And I think being in, even though it was a small program, it was an MGB program. I had an email that says @mgb.org. That opens doors.
That's Mass General Brigham.
Yeah. So I reached out to, I want to say, 6 or 7 PIs, and I heard back from all of them. I don't know if that would have happened with my regular gmail.com. Probably not. But so they emailed me back. I set up a meeting with most of them to understand their interests. And a tip for everybody here, you probably know this, but if you're going to a meeting with someone, you should read about their work and be familiar with what they do. So yeah, I met with some of them, and I ended up joining a couple of research groups, one at the Farber, one at the Brigham. And I got really close to the people at the Brigham, where I did this research in myeloproliferative neoplasms. For research takes time. I know we're going to talk about meta-analysis in a second and how we can expedite things with meta-analysis. But research, when it comes to data collection and all of that process, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was maybe a couple of years until we had some good results to present. From that project, I got an award with the American Society of Hematology. And those institutions, those societies, they often have those opportunities for residents, for fellows, for medical students. And I encourage people to look for those and apply for those awards, because that makes a difference.
Speaking of which, you won one.
Yeah, so I won this Research Resident Award with the American Society of Hematology.
That's the biggest hematology society in the U.S., ASH, American Society of Hematology.
And then when you go and you apply for fellowship and you have that in your CV, it makes a lot of difference to see that you're involved with the main society of the field.
Yeah.
So I think that was my research trajectory in residency, and then towards the end of my second year, when I was about to apply, I joined the Meta-Analysis Academy. I remember Maisa reaching out to me to talk about the program. And at that time we were able to start some projects, and I definitely talked about it in my interviews about this group and how I was able to mentor some students in hematology. So that was it was really great to be part of my CV as well.
So Cilomar, just a quick parenthesis there. Cilomar is an expert in the Meta-Analysis Academy. In our program, we pair up students or folks who are more junior in training, or even specialists, with other specialists who are not really knowledgeable in the clinical aspects or surgical aspects, depending on which specialty of that field. So the idea is that our students who are super well trained will develop ideas and run the methods and do the statistics and do the papers. And these experts will contribute with that, but also offer that clinical insight. And this partnership, this collaboration between our students and experts has worked tremendously well for both parts, for the experts who have papers and who can mentor students and who can talk about their mentorship experience, and for the students, of course. In fact, one of Cilomar's mentees, he was just telling me before we started, matched into the same internal medicine program where he did his internal medicine. So it's obviously it's a great opportunity for collaboration and people getting to know each other and working with each other. So that's why I want to invite you guys, if you want to learn how to do these meta-analysis, make sure to join our wait list for our program. But Cilomar, how important were these meta-analysis or experiences, you think, in contributing? Obviously, it's not. I don't want to make it sound like it's the most important thing, because you did so well in other parts. But I also want to talk about how this contributed to your successful career journey.
Oh, definitely. I think the first thing is to learn.
The skills.
The skills. So, and it's so easy to follow the lectures. It's really for dummies at the start, which I love. But then it really goes deep and you really learn how to do it. So the skills is to have that. And it's a brilliant idea to empower people to do that. Yeah. I will say, and I think most people have recognized that it's getting harder to publish. So being in a course that will allow you to do meaningful, significant research is important.
Yeah, and on that topic of just being more difficult, as what our students have successfully done is develop more advanced skills. So like you may publish a network meta-analysis, which not everyone can do, a Bayesian meta-analysis, which not everyone can do. But you're right that over time, it does get harder to just publish simple pairwise meta-analysis. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think something that I've done in my group that I would like to do more is also knowing people in the area, experts, even more experts than me, so senior faculty that I've met over the past few years, invite them to be a part of this project. In fact, we are just finalizing one right now with my initial group, my first group, and in that project I invited my associate program director to join us. He is an expert in thrombosis, and then he invited more people that are experts throughout the country, in California, other people here in Boston at the Dana-Farber. So it's a really robust group of experts that joined us, and
it's incredible.
So I think it's a great opportunity, great experience.
Yeah, I mean, for the students, I mean, wonderful. Not just to have the opportunity to work with you, but to work with these giants in the field. That's great. Tell us a little bit more about the research results with this group that you've led. You were telling me that you have a couple of submitted manuscripts. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we have 2 currently under review. We're finalizing another one. We have one fully published, accepted, and already out. We have many abstracts in conferences. I think at the American Society of Hematology, that was just last December, we had maybe 4 abstracts there.
That's great.
And a couple more at the European Hematology Association that happened in Milan last year. And also we submitted abstracts last year that were accepted to the the International Society of Thrombosis and Hemostasis, which is also a big society in the field. So
that was in Washington, right?
That was in DC, yeah.
Yeah, I know this because I just want to mention this. One of our students from India won a research award in that conference.
We met there.
Bezalel. He won $2,000 research award. It's pretty incredible. He's not in your group, was he?
No, he was not. But yeah, so we met there.
That's great. So Cilomar, you've done incredibly well. You came from Brazil and repeated residency here. Then now this incredible fellowship in Hem/Onc at Harvard BI. Like, what's next in your career? Like, are you more inclined towards Hem or towards Onc? Which do you want to go academic, private? Like, what do you see your career heading?
Yeah, that's a tough question.
You can punt it. We'll figure it out.
No, I'm fully hematology bound, nice. Committed. I don't do solid onc, but hematology has always been a great passion. Whether my future will be in benign or malignant, that's still to be determined. Yeah. I really do love both. I was just sharing that the next academic year, I think one of the great things about my program at BI is that we are free to do what we want and pursue our dreams. So things are very flexible. So I might do a combination of classical hematology or benign hematology and a little bit of malignant. I've been really enjoying treating patients with lymphomas. I have great mentors in the area, and I do love medical education. I have a passion. I think I'm good at teaching, so I want to explore more of that. And who knows, maybe have a leadership role in the future. It's really great to work with students at any level and to learn from them. So that's something that I aspire to.
Yep. No, great career opportunities ahead for sure. Congratulations. I mean, you've done so well. That's incredible. You should be proud of yourself, man. This is good. And I want to also mention briefly about the excitement in the field of Hem/Onc. And, people always ask me, what field would you recommend? And obviously, I'm an enthusiast of cardiology. But I want to also tell, every time I answer that question on social media or in person, I always add this that I will say now, and Cilomar can corroborate. Hem/Onc is where there's most excitement in the field of internal medicine. There's no doubt. Like, cardiology has had some interesting things over the last 10 to 20 years, like TAVR, treatment for amyloidosis, but they're very in niche fields, and Hem/Onc is just, so full of thrilling advances, excitement, research, funding, money, which is important. Yeah. And so Cilomar will know better than me, but I just wanted you to speak a little bit about the excitement in the field of Hem/Onc.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's hard to keep track of everything, but there have been so many advances recently in the past few years. We know immune checkpoint inhibitors really changed the way we treat cancer, mostly solid tumors, but even in the liquid cancers, there's role for immune checkpoint inhibitors as well. In the world of lymphoma, myeloma, and leukemia, CAR T cells cell therapy really changed the way we treat those conditions. We have bispecific antibodies, and even things that we've been doing for so long, like stem cell transplants, allogeneic stem cell transplants. We're getting so much better at this. In the past, we used to limit those stem cell transplants for patients that were young and very fit. Now we are taking patients that are older and older to transplant with good success because we're really getting better at that. So we're really saving lives here. So it's really exciting. And even if you go to the classical hematology side, we again are making a lot of progress. If you look at treatment for things like hemophilia, we have so many new drugs that improve quality of life by a lot for those patients. Patients are basically living normally.
Wow.
Nowadays, sickle cell is a constant progress. Other hemoglobinopathies like thalassemias, we're talking about gene therapy. So it's really, really a lot. It's constantly changing. So it's some exciting times.
That's great. And you can, even watching from a cardiology perspective, you can see it from afar, like all the exciting stuff that's happening there.
Yeah.
The cardiology, again, I don't mean to downplay cardiology. I really love being a cardiologist, but like we've been talking about the same things for ages, like, duration of antiplatelet therapy and LDL cholesterol goals. Like there is some innovation, but a lot of it is more of the same and more research in the same aspects. So very good, Cilomar. Congratulations again on a beautiful career. I usually like to finish the podcast by asking our guests, what do you do when you're not, taking care of patients or doing research or mentoring other junior students? Like, how do you like to spend your time? Some of your hobbies?
Yeah, I think that's the great thing about being in Boston is that there's so much to do around here. I like going out and do things, not necessarily outdoors, but just enjoying different experiences in Boston. So I'll come to a game, whether it's hockey, basketball, football. I've really been into baseball lately, and the season's about to start, so
nice.
That's exciting. I like going to museums, and we have so many good museums here in Boston. Going to concerts, and when I'm home, I try to relax. What we do is heavy duty, so it's important to know your limits and be able to restart, refresh. And otherwise we can't do our jobs well. So
that's good advice. Should get rest.
Yeah.
The most important question: Grêmio or Internacional?
Grêmio, always.
That's like for the American folks. It's like asking like Ohio or Michigan. Like that's the level of like rivalry.
And you can see the screens are blue. So
true. Yeah. You wouldn't, if you were Inter, you wouldn't accept to do it like with the blue screen here. All right, guys. So that's the story of Cilomar Martins. Thank you for sharing again, Cilomar. You've done incredibly well. Thank you for your contributions to the Meta-Analysis Academy, for being a mentor to some of our students. Even were telling me how one of your mentees did so well in the match recently. So congratulations to you and to your group. And I'm looking forward to seeing the next steps of your career.
Yeah. No. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, guys. So if you want to listen to more episodes like this, check out our YouTube channel, subscribe. We have many successful stories here of people in different levels of training. So Cilomar is a fellow, but some of our attendees, our guests have been medical students, pre-meds, all the way to PhDs, and chiefs of cardiology have come over here. And don't forget to join the wait list of the Meta-Analysis Academy. Follow us on other social media as well. See you guys later for the next episode. Bye-bye. Thank you, Cilomar.